Hi, I'm Monica Wyatt from the Personalization Studio.
Hey, I'm Julie O'Brien, Head of Behavioral Science and Coaching.
And I caught up with Julie today because I always set New Year's resolutions and then I break them by February.
Like most Americans.
And I've heard science says that New Year's resolutions don't work very well. What are some things that actually do work to help people make positive changes in their lives?
That is a real big question. I don't think we can answer everything here, but what we do know is that New Year's is actually a really nice time to try and make a change. So we often go through the holidays, we maybe eat more than we planned, we probably spent more than we planned as well.
Guilty.
Maybe drink more than we planned.
Also guilty.
And then January comes and it's what psychologists would call a temporal landmark. It's a fresh start. It's an opportunity to put the past behind you and really feel like a new version of yourself. So that leads us to make New Year's resolutions. It's this really moment of optimism and we want to go all in and be a whole new person. But as you explained, the challenge is that we set really lofty goals, but then it's really hard to actually follow through and achieve the goal that we want. And so this is actually the whole reason behavioral science exists. This is the action intention gap. And so then the question is, how do we close that gap? If you want these changes and you really care about them, what can you do to actually follow through?
Okay, so one of the changes I'd like to make is eating healthier. Can you make some recommendations for how I would approach that as not necessarily a New Year's resolution, but taking advantage of that temporal landmark?
Yeah, so the first thing you want to do is think about the actual behaviors that you want to change and get really, really specific. So this is an example of starting with the problem that you want to solve so that you can find the solution that's going to actually work for you. So let's say you want to start by eating healthier, which is great, but there's a lot of ways that you could define that. You could say, I'm going to go and do paleo, or I'm going to do intermittent fasting, or I'm going to eliminate a certain group of foods and eat more of these other types of foods.
Or I'm going to eat one vegetable.
Or I'm going to eat one vegetable, right. Like I ate a banana for lunch and there I checked the box on being healthy. And so that's part of the problem is we really want the outcome of feeling healthier, but we haven't thought through all of the specific behaviors that will get us there. So step one is to say, what are the actual behaviors really concretely that you want to change? And then you have to figure out what gets in the way, right? So if my goal is to just eat more fruits and veggies, there's a lot of other things I now have to do to be able to eat more fruits and veggies. So we think of these things as psychological barriers or things that are going to get in the way. And if you look at yourself and you say, okay, what are some of the barriers? Maybe it's that you're not in the habit of buying fruits and veggies, or maybe you don't really like meals that contain veggies.
Or maybe I buy them and they sit in my fridge
right.
because I'm trying to grab a snack between meetings and I go and grab a granola bar instead because it's way easier.
Yeah, exactly. So if you're able to identify all of those barriers that get in the way, then you can come up with the solution that's actually going to work for your specific situation. So once you come up with your solution, that's also great, but now you have to implement it. And so what we do know from behavioral science is that there are a few things that can help with actually implementing the thing that will work. So number one is make a plan. And I know that sounds like pretty basic and obvious, but it's really, really helpful, especially if you do it within a short period of time. So don't try to solve for the whole year, but say, what am I going to do tomorrow, the next day, and the next day? And that's it. And if you can get really concrete, plan it out in advance when you're not tired, you're not stressed, you don't have other things competing for your attention, you can get really practical and figure out what would actually help you follow through. Then you want to make sure you're actually committed. So what we also know is that when you dabble in a new behavior, it doesn't really stick. So if I say I have a goal of eating more healthy foods, maybe I have more vegetables, and then I eat a banana and then I'm like, for dinner, I go back to what I've been doing. Not much has changed. I still ate the banana, which maybe I didn't really enjoy as much as a granola bar. And so now I'm like, well, I made this sacrifice. I don't really feel any different. It wasn't worth it. Let's just go get pizza, right? So, don't try and overdo it. Pick things that you can actually achieve and then plan everything out in advance. The other thing that we know is really effective is engineering your environment. So often when we think about a New Year's resolution, we say, why can't people follow through? It must be something about those people. Like they don't have the motivation or they don't have the self-control or, maybe they just are not smart enough to figure it out. And that's not actually what's happening. What happens is we find ourselves in situations that are really tempting. So we go into the office, maybe that's new, and maybe there's more food because it's a new environment to be in.
Mhm.
And when food is in front of you, chances are you're going to want to eat it.
That coworker who brings the big bag of M&Ms and is so nice about it, maybe
Yeah.
is not working in favor of me eating more fruits and vegetables.
Exactly. So if we can get really smart about the environments that we're going to be in, and then again, plan around that. Be strategic. Put yourself in environments where you're going to be able to do the things that you want to do, or where it's easy to do the things that you want to do. So the really common example is you put the bowl of fruit at eye level and you put the snacks really far away.
So maybe I'll be the coworker who brings in the fruit.
Exactly.
All right.
I think the last thing that I would say is that it's much easier to do something when you have support and accountability. We are social creatures and we really like other people, and we can really benefit from the support and accountability of other people. So find someone who can help you and who can check in on how everything is going, that you can feel like open and honest in telling them how you're doing. And that presence of another person who cares about you and is going to kind of pay attention is also going to help make you feel more motivated and make it feel like it's more possible.
Will you be my accountability buddy?
I would love to be your accountability buddy.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.